what can we do as a society to stop and prevent young boys being dragged into this whirlpool of hatred and misogyny. And it is young boys predominantly in this particular instance. But also, how can we protect young girls that are at risk? Because obviously that's a very strong feature of the the documentary, the drama. That again, as I say, my boy is 16, my girl is 14, so I'm seeing this very much through both sets of eyes, and that's why I think it hits hard.
Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host, and you just heard from Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the leader of the Labour Party in the UK since, I believe, 2020, Prime Minister maybe since 2024, and he's talking about what we're going to be talking about today, the Netflix series Adolescence. If you have not heard about it, it is a very, very fascinating 4-part miniseries on Netflix that portrays a fictional story that many people believe is trying to portray a real situation, and I think even the directors are, but some people are saying, like, no, they took a true life crime story, swapped it out, changed the color of the perpetrator of the crime, and have put together a 4-part miniseries that basically blasts the patriarchy, white men, the whole 9 yards. Elon Musk has chimed in on this, which took the whole thing to a different level. The Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, basically he's suggested and stated, I believe over social media, that he wants this miniseries shown in all schools across the UK. He thinks, as you just heard in the clip, he called it accidentally a documentary, then called it a drama. The people that actually put together, the producers, the directors, no, this isn't based off any true story. It's a combination, or it's a reflection of youth violence. It's a story about a 13-year-old boy, and in this instance, in Adolescence, a 13-year-old white boy that stabs and kills a classmate, a female classmate. But it's far more interesting than that. We're going to get into it today in great detail because, and you're going to have to stick with me today. I'm going to go places today that are big, mammoth, and I might get a tiny bit emotional because you've heard me on many shows say, oh man, I think this is the most important show we've ever done. I'm going to say it again. I think today's show, if I'm able to pull it off, even a slight bit, could be the most important show we've ever done, and it could set the course, the direction of where we're going with the Fearless movement for a sustained period. It's certainly, what I'm going to unpack today certainly is going to connect to roll call and what we're doing with roll call as it relates to allies in Christ. Today's title for today's show, if you've seen it, you clicked on it. It's The War on White Men, and why all of us must stand up and put an end to this war. This is the threat to Western civilization. This is the threat that is undermining and sowing all the division in Western civilization, and certainly right here in America. There is a war against white men. It's as racist and as vile and as dangerous as the war that used to be against black men and black people. I'm going to unpack it all today through the lens of this Netflix series. I'm going to connect it to bigger and broader things. Stick with me today. Have some patience with me today. This ride, this journey I'm going to take you on, well worth it. Awesome edition. Just me and you today, me, you, and a microphone, and an awesome conversation. I want to begin by thanking Glenn Beck and the company he started, Real Estate Agents I Trust, for helping make today's show a possibility and for the opportunity to explain to you all why you can receive the benefits of real estate agents I trust that I didn't get to receive when I was buying a home and thinking about where to locate here in Nashville. If I had had the benefits of real estate agents I trust, this process would have gone a lot smoother and a lot easier. I struggled early on to find the right real estate agent. If I had known about Glenn Beck's company, Real Estate Agents I Trust, it would have cleaned up the process, made it quicker, simpler, and more trustworthy for me. So I'm going to do for you what Glenn Beck didn't do for me and tell you where to go. Real Estate Agents I Trust. They find you closers. They find you trustworthy real estate agents across the country. Simplify your buying and selling process by acquiring the right real estate agent off the top. realestateagentsitrust.com is all you need. realestateagentsitrust.com to find the real estate agent that can get you quickly into the home you want or help you sell the home you're ready to move on from and potentially upgrade. Real estate agents I trust. Thank you, Glenn Beck. Thank you to his company. Let's begin our descent into a very heavy topic, a topic that is going to be a big part of my discussion with Tucker Carlson when he comes here in May to help us with Roll Call 3.0. Tucker Carlson and I are going to have it. I'm going to engage Tucker in a conversation about the real threat going on in Western civilization, the real threat going on right here in America, and that is the demonization and vilification of white men and white people. And I know many of you right now are so, here goes Whitlock caping up for white people. No, I cape up for and defend and fight against all discrimination, regardless of which direction it flows. I'm very consistent and very transparent about this. I don't like racial bigotry. I don't like racial idolatry. And I don't like the demonization of any group based on skin color. And I don't like the denial that the demonization of white men and white people, and particularly white evangelicals, is going on globally. And we can see it right here in this miniseries that Netflix has put on called Adolescence. As I've explained to you, 13-year-old boy that murders a classmate, stabs a female classmate. He comes from what they present as kind of an idyllic family. This is over in the UK, right outside of London, I believe. He comes from a married family, both parents, the parents still married, has a sister. They don't reflect any problems in the home, but somehow they've created this angry 13-year-old monster that has a problem with women. That's just the beginning of it in episode 1. In episode 2, they play a big card. They put that when I saw it, I was like, they attacked Andrew Tate by name. You're going to have to watch this documentary series. When they brought Andrew Tate into this by name, I was like, what? It just seemed to come from out of nowhere. You've got this murder of a young teenage girl by a 13-year-old boy, and the next thing you know, halfway through episode 2, they're basically saying, well, you know what the motive is? He was radicalized by Andrew Tate. He was radicalized by the manosphere. He was being taunted as an incel. He was being portrayed as just another kid at this school that's completely out of control. It seemed like some private school where the kids are wearing uniforms, the boys are wearing ties, and girls are wearing like Catholic skirts and all that. But all of these kids are out of control, and the finger is being pointed at, look what the internet has done to these kids. And look what the patriarchy has done to these kids. And look what evil people like Andrew Tate and their red pill, sexist, point of view. They get into the middle of episode 2, and the cop who is investigating this murder, his son goes to the school where the killer and the victim went. And his son pulls him into a room and starts talking Andrew Tate talking points. And it's like 80% of the women are attracted to 20% of the men. And this kid was being called an incel. And for the first time in my life, and people have been tossing the word incel around for, it seems like 2, 3, 4 years. I've never fully understood it. I knew it was something about kids or young or people, men who can't get laid, but I did not know the incel means involuntary celibacy. I had never heard that until this documentary, and I was like, oh, that's what incel means and where it comes from. Involuntary celibacy. And as his son, the cop's son, unpacks it, and they're saying that the girl who was the victim of this murder had taunted the killer by calling him an incel. And I heard this, and I was like, so a 13-year-old is, I believe that's 7th grade, is being taunted as an incel and being ridiculed for not being sexually active. And I thought to myself, like, and I remember being 13. And there was an innocence at age 13. There wasn't, you weren't looked at like you haven't had sex yet and you're 13. No one thought this way when I was a kid. And yes, I'm old. But when I talk about robbing the innocence of young people, this is what I'm talking about. We forced a sexual conversation and sexual decision-making on young people. And yes, the social media apps and the internet have driven a bit of this conversation. But this finger pointing at Andrew Tate, and I'm not saying Andrew Tate is a force for good, but when I'm sitting here like, well, hold on, we got a serious problem going on with young men globally, a very serious problem. And young men are less interested in dating. Young men are more withdrawn. Young men are frustrated and confused. Young men are different. But Andrew Tate, we got a 4-part series that basically says Andrew Tate is the driving force of this, and that the manosphere is the driving force of this, and that online influencers are the driving force of this. Are you kidding me? This isn't a serious discussion, and it's literally, when I saw this in episode 2, I hit pause and I called TJ Moe, and I was like, Netflix has a 4-part series that's blaming Andrew Tate for youth violence. And I was like, Andrew Tate is clearly more of a threat and more important than I ever imagined. I never thought, and I've understood people have said he's popular and people Google him and people talk about him. I've heard all that and understood it. But I never thought he had reached some level to where Netflix or Amazon Prime or any movie would be directed at saying, yeah, he's the problem with your kids. He's so important that we've had to make a movie that basically portrays him as the poison rotting your kids. This was not a serious movie. This was a movie with a clear-cut agenda. This was a movie that, a mini-series that had a point of view it wanted to get across. And this is a mini-series that wants to ignore the obvious real problems going on with young men, boys, and even older men. And this all connects to the demonization of white men, because that's what this miniseries is about. That the patriarchal ways of Western civilization have clearly outlived their usefulness, and that the solution to fixing angry young men is bowing, submitting to female leadership and more female involvement in everything. And so in episode 3, which somewhat mirrored it, they've got the 13-year-old boy incarcerated in a facility while he's awaiting trial, and a female psychiatrist goes in to sit down with him. And they basically sit in a room, and it kind of mirrored, why am I having this brain fart? Steve Dace's movie was very popular. Oh my God, I'm sorry that I can't. Steve Dace, who works here at the Blaze, he put out a movie 2 years ago, Nefarious. Yeah, Nefarious. It mirrors Nefarious. The killer, the wicked, evil 13-year-old boy in Nefarious, it was a grown man, and he sits down with a psychiatrist that's trying to get to the bottom of, what's crazy, what's wrong with this kid, and they send in a female psychiatrist to engage with this 13-year-old boy, and the whole episode is them going back and forth. And the 13-year-old boy is halfway communicating with this grown woman as if it were two adults, but occasionally the 13-year-old boy, 2, 3, 4 different times, he loses his temper, flies off the handle, turns nearly violent and frightening and scary, but she stands in there, but it mirrors Steve Dace's movie Nefarious, if you saw that. But the point of view of it was, in her line of questioning, what she kept insinuating to the young boy, that his problem was he just didn't have female friends, and females didn't find him attractive. And his whole problem was he wasn't getting any, and he wanted action from the ladies. And that, that his dad didn't have female friends, that his dad had his wife and his male friends, but he just didn't share enough of his mindset and influences, that women didn't have enough influence. That was the inference to her line of questioning. There's something wrong with you and your dad. You're both angry. And yes, your dad is married, but he doesn't have female friends, and you don't have any female friends, and that's your problem. This was a very matriarchal movie, as virtually everything on Netflix is. Everything coming out of Hollywood is. Every message coming out of Hollywood is, man is evil and wicked, and the white man is especially evil and wicked. All of this, and many of you that are controlled by your racial idolatry, that think we're in some type of race war, and that you're a combatant in a race war, and you pick sides based on skin color, you're missing the whole thing. There's a good versus evil battle going on. There is a feminist versus patriarch battle going on. And this miniseries, as trying to explain what's going on with young men, because at least this miniseries acknowledges that there's a problem with young boys. They're just pointing to the wrong solutions. They're just pointing to the wrong genesis or driver of this problem with young men. And there's a problem with young women, but it's unaddressed, because as long as women continue to ascend and gain power, women are never, and Hollywood is never, and Netflix and Amazon is never going to say, hey, there's a problem with women. Even though women are on more antidepressants, even though women have been diagnosed as depressed and struggling with mental health issues more and more, they're never going to address the real cause. They've set up Andrew Tate as the scapegoat, as the distraction. The manosphere, the red pill movement, all these angry men that reject feminism, they're the problem. This thing is worth watching. Yes, it's going to boil your blood. Yes, it's going to frustrate you. But yes, it will give you a clear picture of the war on men and the particular war on white men. And I will explain why it's a particular war on white men. Stick with me. But that's what this mini-series is about. And for those of you that are paying attention, it came out on March 13th, and it's already cracked the top 10 for most popular TV shows in the history of Netflix. I believe it's number 9 after just 2.5, 3 weeks. Released on March 13th, it's setting records. It's already the 9th most watched thing in Netflix history. This thing is pervasive. This thing is popular. This miniseries, Adolescence, gets at the real feud that's going on, the patriarchy versus the matriarchy, and it is pointing a finger of blame at the patriarchy. Obviously, you know my opinion. Feminism, the matriarchy, is the problem. Young boys and young men are struggling because they're not being allowed to be young boys and young men. They're being remade. They're being told to submit to the power, control, advice, counsel, vision of women. That's not the way we were made. That's not what God instructed. This is in objection to the designer of men and women and of everything on the planet. He calls for, God instructed man to be a leader. There's a reason we're made the way that we're made. There's a reason why we don't have a menstrual cycle once a month about the time we get age 12 or 13 and have that carry on for the next 25, 30 years. Men and women are different. They're intended to have different roles. The more that feminists insist that we all compete for the same roles, the more men are going to become frustrated, confused, and angry. The more women are going to become depressed and unsafe. The more children are going to become confused, filled with anxiety, depressed, not knowing what their real identity is. This mini-series, Adolescence, is a gigantic distraction. It's Andrew Tate in the manosphere. It's Kevin Samuels, thank God he died. It's the manosphere. They're turning to the internet. And I think it was episode 4 focused on this kid's parents and his family. And the last episode is actually pretty good because it ends with a scene of the parents, a long scene, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so of the parents in a bedroom like, hey, how did we do this? How did this happen? How did we raise a kid, a 13-year-old, filled with this kind of anger that he would kill a young girl, a young classmate? And they're crying and thinking about the mistakes they made and wondering if they spent enough time with their kid, wondering if they left the kid up in his room on his computer too long, wondering if they had failed as parents. But the underlying message was that, no, these were really good parents, and the internet got their son. Just like he got the internet got all the kids at his school. And they're all, the father at some point is basically at a Home Depot, and his son has been under arrest and charged with this crime for months. And one of the workers at the Home Depot recognizes the dad, pulls him to the side and says, hey, I'm on the side of your son. I think he's innocent. Now, keep in mind, the young boy, the police have the killer on tape. Surveillance cameras at businesses captured him stabbing and killing this little girl. But 7-8 months later, they're showing the dad at a Home Depot, and one of the Home Depot employees is pulling him to the side. Yeah, I think your son is innocent. The way the stab wounds are, I've seen the pictures. And it was basically arguing that the internet and conspiracy theories and all the red-pilled, sexist men, they're all nut jobs. And despite video evidence of this 13-year-old boy killing him, they're so trapped in conspiracy theories that they don't even believe what their eyes are showing them. And they've been so radicalized and made nuts and insane, they can't accept an obvious truth that this 13-year-old boy killed a 13-year-old girl. This miniseries is dangerous. It's a dangerous piece of propaganda. And I'm going to get to some larger points here, but I want to spend just a bit more time just on why this Andrew Tate thing so fascinated me. That in the early beginnings of this, in the foundational part of this, when they discover or reveal what they're saying the motive is for this killing, they point a direct finger by name at Andrew Tate. And I was like, is he really that important? That they would make a mini-series scapegoating him as the bad guy, scapegoating him as someone who radicalized a 13-year-old boy to kill. And then as you watched the boy, as the rest of the miniseries plays out, he has so little emotional control. He's so angry at women. He fires off on this female psychiatrist. And the inference is clear. Oh, if your son is listening to Andrew Tate, he's a pimp and a violent pig, just like Andrew Tate. And I want to be clear. You've listened to me. Andrew Tate is an unrepentant pimp. He's on tape, confessing to his crimes. But Andrew Tate, he ain't Charles Manson. He ain't Jim Jones. Yes, what he's promoted and what he's used to trick young boys and men into make himself rich, the pimps and hoes degree and all that other stuff, yes, it's a problem. But the real problem, and everybody knows it, and it's not remotely reflected in this miniseries. It goes out of its way to portray this family as normal. But there's not a single rational person on the planet who doesn't know the destruction of family is at the root of what's wrong with all of these young people. When you go look for the young people that are committing murder, the data, the stats, the information, the science, as they like to say, will all tell you they come from destroyed family structures in a high percentage. And if the family structure is together, the family structure is so destroyed with dysfunction, a violent father, an alcoholic father, a drug-addicted mother, a father or mother who has sexually molested their child, an uncle or cousin or grandfather who has molested the child. That's what creates these child monsters. This miniseries tried to pretend like two well-intentioned, normal parents, the dad that never spanked his child, and he should have, he admitted that he got spanked, but a dad who never spanked his child and who, has a bit of a temper, but they never really show it to you in this miniseries in an inappropriate way. Yes, they show him with a temper, but it's like, man, his son has killed somebody. He's seen the murder on tape. He's being trolled by kids in the neighborhood, and he loses his temper when some kids spray paint his van. What they portrayed in this miniseries, like, hey, this kid came from a normal family, 2 loving parents that put a lot of effort into him. Dad took him to boxing classes. Dad took him to play soccer. Dad tried to get him involved in all these activities. Hey, he wanted a computer, and we gave him a computer and headsets. And, he wanted to be in his room all the time, and we kind of left him alone. But in his room and on his computer, he got radicalized by Andrew Tate and blah, blah. It just doesn't happen that way, and everybody knows it. There may be aberrations, but all the data says that ain't how it goes down. There's a missing parent, a destroyed family structure. There's no dad in the home. There's a drug-addicted mama in the home. There's a molester in their circle. There's alcoholism. There's abuse, real abuse. It's not Andrew Tate. And I'm not saying Andrew Tate's a good influence. I'm not saying he helps. But we're out here treating a ingrown fingernail when the patient's dying of cancer. Andrew Tate is an ingrown fingernail. The cancer is the destroyed family. It's the family that prioritizes money over spending quality time and educating and developing your own child. It's the family that prioritizes a 3,500 square foot house that requires the mother to take a second job or to take a job rather than satisfy herself and themselves in a 2,000 square foot home and only one person working so that the other person can totally focus on the development of the child. We've destroyed the family structure, and we keep Netflix and all of the commercial media and all the mainstream media, all the corporate media, all the legacy media keep saying, no, there's nothing wrong with destroying the family. Nothing wrong with that. There's no ramifications. There's no consequences for that. This is insanity. The problem is so obvious. And now, before I do that, I'm going to zero in on the racial elements of this. But before I do that, I want to remind you all that it was right here in my home studio last week when Jeffrey Steele whipped out his little packet of Relief Factor. And I was like, man, you steal some of my Relief Factor? He goes, no, man, I've been taking this. One of my boys had a knee surgery, and he turned me on to Relief Factor. It's helped him. It's helping me, Jeffrey Steele. Guy bikes 30 miles every morning. He's in his early 60s. And I was like, damn, Jeffrey, it's helping me too. We all love Relief Factor because it helps us fight inflammation. It's allowing me to work out. It's helping me on my weight loss journey. There's easy way to get it. 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. You can get it that way. A 3-week quick start trial. It's just $20. It's just $20. It's $19.95. Less than $20. So that $20 you got burning your pocket right now could be your ticket to a pain-free life and living your best life with far less pain than what you're dealing with today. $20, guys. That's it. For a chance to relieve some of that pain, it's well worth it. 70% of the people that get the quick start go double back and re-up and order because it's working for them. 1-800-4-RELIEF or visit relieffactor.com. Let me bring the racial element into this because for men, it should be very obvious. Hey, man, we're in a battle of the sexes. We're in a fight for dominion. The Bible's made it crystal clear in the book of Genesis that man was given dominion over everything that creepeth and crawleth and on the earth. Feminism rejects that. Women want to have dominion over everything. They want to be the leaders. They say they want to share it, but they really don't want to share it. They want leadership. The feminists believe man is at the root of all problems. Man must be demonized. And so what demographic of people have risen to power following Christianity? It's the white man. And in the founding of this country right here in America, white people, George Washington and them folks got all hyped up on the Bible, and this is a fact, whether you like it or not, got hyped up on the Bible and wrote a Constitution, a Declaration of Independence, a Bill of Rights, the whole nine. They was like, hey, man, we love this Bible. We're going to take all of our principles from this Bible to write up a Constitution that will drive this country. And it worked. And it created the greatest nation in the history of the planet. And this Constitution was written up like 250 years ago, and it still works, even though there's a group of people trying to tear it down. And they're trying to tear it down by painting Christianity as racist, by painting Christianity as pro-white, and it doesn't work for anybody else. I object to that. And I object to the attack on Christianity through the premise of we're ending racism by destroying white people, and this will, Christianity may be collateral damage, but it's well worth it because we got to destroy racism. Christianity is not at the root of racism. It's nowhere involved in racism. Does that mean George Washington and these guys were perfect? Not at all. They're human beings. They're flawed. Of course they're not perfect. But they got hyped up and high on Christianity and the Bible and did something great. They created a miracle. The United States of America. And those of us that are blessed enough to live in this country need to be thankful for that rather than upset, entitled, angry, and trying to demonize America and its history and its founders. And you can go all the way back to Christopher Columbus and trying to demonize everybody. This is insanity. I'm going to say some things that are going to be very uncomfortable, won't be understood, but I just want to set the table for a conversation I'm going to have with Tucker Carlson on Friday, May 2nd, right here in Nashville, because it's important. The demonization of white men that's going on in global culture, Netflix, the UK, everywhere. Everybody's doing the Macarena on white men, and they're the worst thing on the planet, and their religion, Christianity. But first of all, it's not their religion, it's our religion. And when I mean our, I mean all of us. But I just want to walk you through, and I know people won't understand this, but those of you that want to live in reality will understand it. Let's go back to, let's say, 1585. Just throwing a number out there. Could be 1602, 1585, could be 1702, whatever. Let's go back there. And let's say you've built a boat that will travel the ocean and allow you to visit other continents and other countries. And your boat lands on some other continent where they haven't been introduced to Christianity or have rejected Christianity, and they have a culture that looks nothing like your culture. And you may land on one of these civilizations, one of these cultures, one of these places, and they haven't even discovered the wheel. They don't understand that the wheel will allow them to move things and travel faster. They haven't discovered the wheel. They don't have a written language. They are involved in some sort of worship that includes perhaps the sacrifice of children. They are capturing and enslaving each other and brutalizing each other, maybe burning each other at the stake. And it could be anywhere on the continent. You could be right here in America, and they run up on Native Americans who are maybe burning each other at the stake. And you know, their culture seems so primitive and so underdeveloped in comparison to where you are, where you have a written language, where you have discovered the wheel, where it creates the appearance to you like, hey, we're more advanced than these people. They don't even know anything about the wheel. They don't even have a form of written communication. We're more advanced. And so your initial thoughts, when you stumble upon this discovery, your initial thoughts are going to be, we're better than these people. We're more advanced. How come you stumble across a group of people that haven't discovered the wheel or not utilizing it, and it's a big, large group of people? You're going to be like, yeah, I think I'm smarter than them. They haven't discovered the wheel. And that's going to infuse your mind. I'm not justifying it. I'm just telling you the facts, and I'm telling you what you would do. Any of you right now, you run up on a group of people that haven't discovered the wheel, and you'll think, I think I'm better than them. May not be the right thought. Probably isn't the right thought. They just don't know what they don't know. But this whole mentality, you run up on a group of people and they go, oh man, they capture and enslave each other. And they're willing to sell their captured colleagues to us. Like, man, these people, they're different than us. And so you probably have a bit of a superiority complex over them. And these are just facts. And so you can go back and judge these people from the 15, 16, 1700s, and they should have hopped on their boats that they built and that these other people have no idea how to build. And when they got to that other country or continent or whatever and saw like, man, they ain't got what we got. We got a wheel. We got written language. We got boats that travel the ocean. These people can't go more than 5 miles from their hut. We're crossing the seas and I'm telling you what you would think. You would think you're superior to them. And if slavery is common practice across the globe at this point, you might think, man, let's enslave these people. They're already enslaving each other. They're willing to sell us, the people they've enslaved. We're better than them. It's a natural thought. It's not a defensible thought, but it's a natural thought. And then, because of your adherence to, belief in, when you bring these people back to your country that you're developing, that's far more advanced than the country you took them from or bought them from or rented them from or accepted them from, your Christianity says, hey, I'm going to invite them into my faith. I'm going to introduce them to Christianity. And eventually, I'm going to say, you know what? You deserve your freedom. And I'm not saying everybody did this across the board, but overwhelmingly, Americans like, nah, you know what? My Christian mentality and Christian beliefs dictate that I participate in the Great Commission. and that I invite people into the faith, and that I introduce them to Jesus Christ, and that I accept that all men are created equal. I have to, my faith dictates that. And so, yes, these are people that we brought in from an underdeveloped country, from someplace else, didn't know the wheel, didn't have a written language, didn't know how to read, didn't know how to write. But my Christian faith says, hey, I got to treat them and give them an opportunity to come along with me on this American journey. And you know what? I'm willing to fight and die for them to experience the American dream, for them to get full citizenship in America. Those of you out there that want to demonize Christianity, demonize Western civilization, demonize American history, demonize the white man, ask yourself what you would do today if you showed up in some country and they were 500 years behind you in terms of advancement. And they demonstrated a savagery that you thought, wow, that's pretty savage. We've advanced beyond that. How would you treat them? Would over the course of the next 100, 200 years, would you invite them into your faith, invite them into your country, grant them full citizenship, sacrifice your life for their freedom because your God says that all men are created equal and they're all image bearers of God? Is that what you would do? I'm talking to black people that feel like, oh, this Christianity, the white man has been so unfair to us. Think it through. Because and I'm mostly talking to you men out there, your racial idolatry, your racial animus is blinding you to the actual spiritual war that's going on. Patriarchy versus matriarchy, good versus evil, dominion. The problems you're having in your own personal life, the problems you're having with your wife, girlfriend, daughter, the problems you're having on your job, they're all connected to feminism. You think they're all connected to race. It's not true. That's the gimmick and the game that's being played on you. Feminism is the problem. And they just they're putting out all these shows, just like Adolescence, that are telling you, no, the patriarchy is the problem. White men are the problem. You need more women in power. You need more women telling you what to do in order for this society to advance, in order for your children to pull their pants up and behave properly and not kill each other. You need more women in charge. Even though these zip codes that are completely controlled by women, that's where all the violence, chaos, and trouble is. Those are the zip codes everybody tries to avoid. But they want you to believe, oh boy, if women were in charge of your neighborhood and of your life, things would be so much better. Because everybody needs to answer to a group of women who once a month have a menstrual cycle. And then they get to be about 45, and then they go through menopause and hormonal change. Everybody needs to answer to that demographic. And I don't hate women. I hate feminism. I hate this reality we've been moved into where we think men and women are interchangeable. And that men are evil. And that women are they're just so angelic. And that they're angels at everything that comes out of their mouth and everything they want to do. It all has this perfect ending where we all end up better. And if more women were just in control, oh, these young boys, they wouldn't be violent. Perhaps it's the control we've turned over to women. Perhaps it's the fact that men have been basically eliminated from the teaching profession K through 12. Perhaps our kids are out of control in these schools, uninterested in learning, because men have been removed from that entire teaching process. The principal's a woman. The teachers are all women. When they get home, daddy's running around, happy wife, happy life. All of this is in objection to the natural order prescribed by God. And so this attack that many of you are sitting back and relishing, yeah, they're attacking white men. Yeah, let them get on their neck. They deserve it. You're celebrating and applauding it and thinking it's serving you. You've got your racial blinders on, so you can't really see what's really killing you. And so you'll turn on Adolescence and be like, yeah, this violent white boy, that nuclear family he came out of, yeah, that's the problem. And your reality will be, when that TV turns off, that matriarchal neighborhood that your mama lives in and you grew up in, and you still have to go back and visit from time to time, or perhaps you're living there now, that matriarchal controlled environment where men have been completely emasculated and they're henpicked. It's the most violent, unsafe place in America, and you can't wait to escape it. You sit around and fantasize, man, I can't wait till I get enough money that I can move out into one of them white neighborhoods where white people are still married, and I can get some peace and quiet, and I can go to sleep at night without worrying about getting robbed or killed. But you want to cosplay as a racist so that your woman will be happy with you and give you some from time to time. You'd rather lie to yourself so you can continue to sleep with that woman who's controlling you, rather than stand up and be a man and demand better. And you fear your woman more than you fear God. And I'm sorry for saying it, but it's just facts. And she's making a fool out of you. And I do not hate her. I don't like the role she's playing. And some of these young boys and young men, they get it. They can feel it in their bones. Like, damn, I can't be a little boy anymore. I can't be a young man anymore. I can't even have Boy Scouts. And everything that's in my nature, I'm being told, that's the wrong instincts. You shouldn't feel that way. Go find you a woman and try to make her happy. This is insanity. You cannot make someone happy. As I've tried to explain on this, the pursuit of happiness is one of the dumbest inventions in the history of the planet. It's a fleeting emotion. I'm talking about fleeting. It lasts seconds. You got orgasms 20 times as long as your happiness. It's uncontrolled. You can't make someone else happy, and you shouldn't be pursuing it. You should be pursuing holiness. But as long as we continue to pursue happiness, and as long as we keep thinking, hey, if we just make women happy, our lives will be better, your kids are going to be out of control. Their identities are going to be confused. They'll wake up, oh, I feel like a little girl. Oh, I think I'm gay. Because they've taken all these little code words, incel. When I watched that documentary, I was like, oh my God, look at the pressure they're putting on this 13-year-old boy. That psychiatrist is in there talking to him about sex. Do you want to have sex? And I'm like, who's this woman to be talking to this 13-year-old boy about sex? That ain't none of her business. And I know this boy is incarcerated, but it still ain't none of her business. Let the parents handle that. This grown woman doesn't need to be talking to this little boy about sex. But we've put all this sex on the mind of young children, and now we have 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boys. Oh, am I an incel? And if they can't get a little girl to help them not be an incel, here's the conclusion that many of them are reaching. Me and my buddy, we'll stop each other from being incels. We'll sexually pleasure each other. You don't put these sexual thoughts in little kids' minds. Their minds aren't developed. They're going to make horrible decisions. 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old boys shouldn't be thinking about, am I involuntarily celibate? And what can I do to stop it? Let me go jack little Jimmy off and he'll jack me off. Now I'm not an incel. We've put incredible pressure on kids. And we've done it by turning over their development to the state, instead of taking the development of kids in our own hands. Mama and daddy have to develop their kids. And at this point, the only place for them to develop them is inside their own homes. And so many of you feminist women out there that have kids, and this percentage of, what they say, 60% of black women that have kids have more than one baby daddy. It's an incredible number. And so you think some single mama with 2 kids, 3 kids, 2 or 3 baby daddies, she can't educate her kids. She's got to go get a job. Or she's got to create more baby daddies so she can get a bigger check. But she can't do it by herself. And so there's a demographic that is going to continue to have bigger and bigger problems with their kids because they're not in position to properly raise their kids. The only people that can properly raise their kids is mama and daddy living under the same roof in a covenant marriage with Jesus Christ. And then you have to be willing to make sacrifices for your kids and not look over at your neighbor's shoulder and say, well, they got 1,700 square feet, and so we need 1,800. So, baby, you go take a job. Literally, I've sat here and racked my brain. I was like, me and my father lived in a 400 square foot apartment in the hood, and I was happy. I was not miserable. I was a kid, and I didn't know I was poor, or I didn't care. Because I was a kid. I didn't need my own bathroom and own television and all the things that we take for granted. I didn't need vacations to other places. I didn't need it to not to enjoy life. As a kid, it's so simple. All I needed was safety and innocence. That's I needed a home, a steady. I didn't need to move around and have to change friends. And luckily I didn't. I think from 3rd grade on, I went to school with the same people all the way through high school. That's what kids need: stability. They need mama and daddy in the home. And they really need one of them parents, mama, at home, taking care of that house and supervising the kids and developing them educationally. The father needs to participate as well. And so as we continue to go down this path, those kids that are allowed to be homeschooled are going to be light years ahead of these confused, cell phone addicted kids that sit in these schools and get miseducated and answer to every female feminist whim on the planet inside those schools, because they kept showing how chaotic the school was. And everyone was taking a dump on the school. And no one wanted to say why. You brought all the men out of the educational process. And men have run themselves out of it because we don't believe in sacrifice. And all we believe is like happiness, which is a foolish pursuit, is all dependent on square foot in a home. It's all dependent. Do we have a second home? Do we have a second or third car? Can we transport our kids to every travel sports team that there is? And again, I know I'm talking about a romantic old time, but I played pee-wee football, junior high football, and high school football, all within walking distance of where I lived. Pee-wee football, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Junior high football, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And high school football, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. I could walk to all my practices. Let me add one correct. In 6th grade, I played in a different league that I did have to get driven to. But that was, I'm not going to give you the explanation, but I had to play in that league instead of the league right across the street from my house. And my senior year of high school, because where I lived in the ghetto, I had to drive. So just let me add those corrections. I don't want to be caught lying here or exaggerating. But everything else, 4th, 5th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, I could all just walk. And I played with the same group of kids. And that's what kids need. And look, my parents were divorced, but lived in a neighborhood for most of that time where most of the neighborhood and all my peers, it was a family culture. We've destroyed that. These kids now are outside of a structured family culture, and we now have a baby mama culture. And I'm looking at this adolescence deal and how they're pretending like Andrew Tate and these online influencers have just destroyed everything. No, we did that. We destroyed the family structure. We bought into feminism. We bought into the independent woman that didn't need no man, and she's a strong. You just don't want to deal with a strong woman. I don't. And I've never been shy about saying that. I want to deal with a submitted woman, a woman that will submit to me as I submit to God. Now, yeah, that's the new, more enlightened me. But I've always wanted a woman that's willing to follow me because I just got that natural instinct. I'm like any man. I want to be the leader. And we shouldn't be ashamed of that. But this whole destruction of the family deal is being tolerated and accepted because many of you have been led to believe, yeah, as long as it hurts the white man, it's a good thing. And you want to color code leadership. Yeah, if black and brown people are in control, things will be better. It doesn't work that way. Families, people with some legitimate belief in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And that's reflected in their behavior. And the behavior has to go well beyond, hey, I go to church on Sundays and Wednesdays. It has to go beyond that. Hey, I'm so committed to this covenant that I entered into with my wife and Jesus Christ. I'm not going to get divorced. I'm not just going to spread my legs for anybody and have 2 or 3 baby daddies. That's the problem. And so I've seen people upset about this adolescence deal, and justifiably, because they think this miniseries is based on something I think called the Southport murders in London or in the UK, wherever it was. They think it's based on that, and that was a black killer. And the directors say, no, it wasn't based on that. This is a fictional story, but it's based off of knife murders that have gone on these schools, blah, blah. But I get why people think it mirrors the Southport murders, and I get why people are like, "Hey man, what are we doing here? You're putting out a miniseries pretending like two dedicated married parents produced this monster child when all the stats say, no, these monster children come from very torn up, dysfunctional family situations, and this is just a misrepresentation, and it's an intentional one to try to defame, demonize the white nuclear family." I get why they're saying that. I don't think it's totally accurate as it relates to this miniseries, but I get why they're saying it, because there are kernels of truth in it, and there is a plot that's being executed to destroy all family structures. The reason the focus isn't on the black family is because they've already destroyed it. The numbers, the stats are all in. Now they're after the white family, and that's why they're after Christianity. And so those of you that have a sincere interest in stopping what is going on, the destruction of family, and all the consequences and ramifications and bad things that happen to children because of it, you got to be willing to stand your ground and tell the racial idolaters, the people on social media, the people that want to frame you as racist, you got to tell them to kick rocks. You got to man up. Let them call you every name in the book. And you have to be willing to find allies, people that share your values, share your worldview, share your mission. People that want to be allies in Christ with you. And so, just to land this plane, it's why I'm so excited about Roll Call and the conversation we're going to have with Tucker Carlson. Because not that people are picking around the edges of this, but people are being careful in how they unpack and talk about the war on white men and on Western civilization and Christian values. And it's because they know if you go too far, if you speak too bluntly about, oh, it's the great replacement theory and you're racist. And so part of, I feel like my mission in trying to help believers stand their ground and stand up is I want to be a tool to help defend Christianity, Western civilization. I want to, the same way I stood up was like, hey man, don't hit me with all this demonization of black men. There's nothing wrong with black men. There's nothing wrong with black skin. Nothing. There's something wrong with people who reject Christianity, in my view. That there's something wrong with people that are hostile to Christianity in their behavior, in their worldview, in their values, in what they promote. And I'm willing to say that if we went back to the 1920s, 1910s, 1940s, white people had a problem with their worldview and the way they wanted to treat and demonize black people. Well, now things have reversed. People of color are participating in a global strategy to demonize white men, and it needs to be stopped because the demonization of white men is being coupled with the demonization of Christianity, and it is destroying all of us. It's robbing children of their innocence, of their safety, of their freedom. And they're offering up solutions. Hey, we need more censorship. If we can just shut up Andrew Tate, that'll fix everything. Nah, it's deeper than that. And the attack on Andrew Tate, partially, and that's not exonerating him from being an unrepentant pimp, but part of the attack is Andrew Tate gets on his podcast and basically tells the white man, stand up for yourself, defend yourself. And that's why Andrew Tate has to be destroyed. And that's why people don't like me, because I'm going to tell white men, and have been telling white men, stand up and defend yourself. Don't be a coward. Let them call you every name in the book. Because if you don't stand up, your children are going to be catching hell globally. You'll be in the grave, and your children will be catching hell. These racial idolaters are out of control. And they're puppet masters that want the white man destroyed and Christianity destroyed. They're going to be out of control, running wild on your kids and grandkids. And you will have said nothing. You will have done nothing. And so I'm just, if you've had enough, stand up. If you've had me and Tucker Carlson to do the heavy lifting. And, you know, I'm just keeping it real. I haven't like told Tucker, hey, Tucker, we're just going to dive head first into that. But Tucker Carlson knows who I am. He knows what I want to talk about. He knows I know what he's been talking about. We're just going to do it more rawly. We're just going to do it more raw, unvarnished, fearlessly. We're just going to cut out all the political correctness, and we're going to challenge people. Say, no, you really against racism? Well, let's be against all of it. Not just when it allegedly impacts you and someone calls you a name. You got Netflix and Amazon Prime and all of corporate media slandering white evangelicals every single day. And you don't have enough courage or integrity to stand up and say, hey, man, this is out of pocket. This is out of line. And it's killing me. Because the real attack isn't on skin color. It's on man. It's on the instructions God left for man. Yeah, this adolescence thing's worth watching. Very, very fascinating. The agenda, I think, is crystal clear. I watched it all yesterday. I'm out of breath. Make sure you go to fearlessrollcall.com. You don't want to miss the conversation Tucker Carlson and I are going to have on Friday, May 2nd. You don't want to miss what we're going to do on Saturday. I think that's all I want to say today. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on a corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want